Now joining us on the program is Professor Nikki Durko, Dean School of Social Sciences, Christopher University, Mowe, Ogun State. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Welcome.
Now, it's less than 48 hours to the elections, and we have heard the president say in a broadcast message to Nigerians to come out in mass and vote for basically anybody they wish to vote for across party lines. It's not the first time the president has made these comments. Don't you find it interesting?
Of course, it is quite interesting for the president to say that. I know he's saying that from the vantage position of a statesman, not a politician. But I can bet you that within his political party, the All Progressives Congress, that is not the same thing, because they want to have voters vote for them. And as you know, this is election for state governors and then the National Assembly members. So the politics this time is more local than the presidential election of 2 weeks ago. Therefore, the battle is going to be very, very fierce because the gladiators are there, within the locale, and they are going to fight it out, party by party, party versus party. So I see a contest that will be more interesting if INEC delivers. We don't want to have a repeat of those issues that occurred during the presidential election: logistics, late delivery of materials, suppression of voters. Sometimes soldiers turned back voters who were willing to come out to vote. So if you urge people to come out en masse and vote, and the conditions are not right, that is, of course, against the grain of good common sense.
Now, what you're saying is for Saturday's elections, for the state houses of assembly and the governorship, it's going to be more intense. Is that what you're saying?
I believe so. It's going to be more intense.
Are you speaking in terms of security?
Well, of course, in terms of security, I should imagine that INEC should make adequate arrangements for security. They've been saying that. Those sound bites are important. But then we want to see reality on the ground that security is sufficient, because there were so many infractions during the presidential elections. The issue of security, and then the issue of violence in some states, even in this Lagos. We had violence, in pockets of areas. So those things should be nipped in the bud. That is why there's so much money voted for security. Police should take care, take responsibility to protect voters and protect those who are willing to come out to vote, and make sure that this election is violence-free.
We all definitely hope that it is violence-free. Yeah. But speaking of voters, do you foresee any voter apathy this weekend?
Well, I think so, too, but the political parties are in the field, mobilizing, voters to come out en masse and vote. But as you know, because of the issues that we had during the presidential elections, many voters are very, very doubtful, of that free space, for them to go and vote. And so many of them actually were despondent after the presidential elections, because after the elections, the declaration of results took so much time. Announcements, upon announcements and all that. People got bored, and then some were even thinking that the elections were just, a sham. So there will still be voter apathy.
And that brings us to the electoral process itself. How can we make it better? How can we cut costs? How can we, I do know that it's been established that results can be transmitted electronically, only that the law says it has to be verified manually, and these things have to be announced manually. How soon would you like to see the whole process go electronic? Just
as soon as the elections are over. If not for the president's own recalcitrants refusing to sign the amendment bill, we wouldn't have had all these problems. But he refused 4 times. He refused to sign the bill. There would have been reforms, in the electoral process. But he declined. He decided not to sign the bill. So that's why we have all these infractions. I believe that immediately after the elections, there should be reform in the electoral process, so that when you vote, results are transmitted electronically from the polling unit where you have voted, to the collation center, or even to INEC's mainframe, so that you can always vouch for every single vote that was cast. The situation where you have a manual counting and then manual declaration of results is, of course, is open to abuse, so much abuse. And that was what happened during the presidential election. That is also likely to happen again, because That situation has not changed.
Well, the last time is about 6 days. Of course, we do not expect
Yeah,
it to take
the election
that long.
was conducted on 23rd, and the results were concluded on 27th.
Of course, we don't expect that to happen again.
No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't.
And speaking of the process again, how
yes,
do we cut
you talked about costs.
Costs.
You know, the cost was humongous this time. During the 2015 election, it was 120 billion naira that was voted, you know, for elections. This time it was 189 billion. So the costs keep going up. But INEC had given an excuse that because the political parties were so many, 91 of them, therefore they had to spend more money. That was the justification. But I think that costs should be pruned down. If you use electronic voting, you wouldn't incur this kind of, yes, cost.
Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us
you very
on
much
News Across
for having
Nigeria.
me.